Well, we're back at you live here at the Trampled Underfoot podcast show. We are your hosts, Mark Lindsay and Eloy Escajedo. Welcome, one and all. What's
What's
going
a
on,
good
Mark?
word? Oh man, just working out in the yard and being busy as heck. It's we have are having beautiful weather now all of a sudden. It has decided to be nice. We hit 83 today and it felt good. It felt good. It's good to sweat instead of shiver. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, you're in Florida. You don't know what I mean.
Well, I have shivered before.
Well, yeah. But I like how you put that. Yeah, well, I have shivered before. We do it for months at a time.
Yeah, well, there's something to be said about a more well, you're on a certain extreme of the climate spectrum, but we're on the opposite extreme, and we've really talked about that before. But nobody's ever satisfied. But
No.
you can't be too satisfied with. I mean, there's good things, but about heat, but you can't. Heat is not necessarily a great old fun time unless you're at the beach or something for a small, spell.
Well,
Other
I
than that.
I like a mixture. I like a mixture. You know, Hawaii was beautiful. It was gorgeous. I wouldn't have traded the experience for the world, but the weather was boring. You know, it was going to be in the 80s, and that was it. It didn't matter what time of year it was. Didn't matter if it was winter, spring, summer, or fall. It was going to be in the 80s. And it was going
Yeah.
to rain for a little bit in the afternoon, then it was going to be gone. And that's it. That's Hawaii's weather in a nutshell, right there. I mean, there
Well,
are exceptions. We'd have the storms who would come in, and that can get pretty nerve wracking at times. But and then if the a low pressure system formed to the north, and the winds were coming from the south, it was that hot, humid, muggy that you live in all the time. And it was
yeah,
pretty miserable then. But when the winds shifted and were coming back from the northeast, then it was real nice weather. But it was, for the most part, just boring. So I like a little bit of a mixture. I need my four seasons. So,
yeah. I mean, Four Seasons does sound at least nice because we just get really one season with a trough of what some would call inklings of distant winter, possibly, but not really arriving.
yeah.
Yeah, we don't see that's the problem. That
Yeah.
that nice, and we do get it. We do get it for like a week, but within
Hmm.
that week, we'll have days that maybe 1 or 2 days that are nice and cold and we're happy, or at least I am, and then it warms up to, and then it comes back and on, and then you'll have to, and then the rest of it is just hot, just
Yeah.
hot.
You got to move a little bit north, man.
Well, I mean,
You got to move a little bit north.
like Maine.
No, not that. You don't have to go to that extreme. I mean, we were in Savannah, Georgia, and don't get me wrong, the summers there were hot, but the winters were temperate. You know, they were decent. Fall was decent. Spring, it started warming up, and then summer, it got hot. But you were right there on the ocean, so you had all the humidity there. And Bug City, oh my God, bugs all over the place, mosquitoes and biting gnats and all that other good stuff.
Yeah,
So I would go further north than that if it were me. Now I liked Tennessee and Kentucky. That was nice. But you know, it's we had it snowed when we were there at stationed at Fort Campbell. Um, and just the whole place ground to a halt because they don't get snow. And they really didn't know what to do. I mean, the highways were just clogged because they got about 4 inches of snow.
yeah, that's inconceivable to me. Like I don't,
Hmm.
I can't even picture that.
Yeah.
um I
Well,
mean, I have.
neither could they.
I wanted to touch on, and now that we don't really have a lot of people just sharing it between us that are here, but um, I, I, anytime there's a event, and there was one today, um, people opine. and that's good because humanity, people, that's what people do. I've seen memes where there's a certain type of personality that'll mention a certain thing
Uh-huh.
that is sort of like, okay, now the season of this is over, and now we're into people being experts at fire hydrant technology, or the type
Yeah,
of
I
and
do.
now people are experts in Middle East affairs or something, and you've seen like memes like that and
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
And the point is taken, um, and I understand it, but people do, but I wonder if these people, maybe these people are just sick of hearing everybody. They see the shifting of the tides, depending on the current affairs at the moment,
Sure.
and so they've noticed the trend of people all of a sudden becoming experts on one subject or the other, and this and that. And I
Yeah.
understand that, like I see it too, but I also, on the other hand, see the fact that, how could you say, human nature, it's like when you go to the grocery store and you're waiting to get your groceries checked out. There's all these news articles and mags and whatnot.
Yeah.
They're there for a reason, because they sell to one degree or another. People like to opine. They like to, at whatever level they're personally exposed to it or capable of. So yes, it can piss people off, but at the same time, it's what people do, and that's how society basically. That's one of the functions of humanity.
Yeah, that is how we function. A lot of it is we're looking for validation on our own opinion. And I don't know, see if you agree with me here. Social media, we both know that social media makes that a lot easier
Hmm.
to get validation for your opinion. But for some reason, with the advent of easy social media, it's real easy to jump on Facebook and vent your spleen and just, use your selective moral outrage to have an opinion on something
Hmm.
and get it out to the most people possible. Do you think, now, having said all that, do you think that that is just to do that, just to vent their spleen and get their opinion out there? Or do you think a good percentage of these people are out there just looking for a fight, looking for a reason to argue, and will jump on anything?
I think that's so. I've thought of that, roughly,
Uh-huh.
and I've thought about myself and my reactions when I comment or do something like that.
Hmm.
And there is an aspect of, like, you where you're at now,
Hmm.
or people out there in the chat, myself here at home,
Yeah.
the device that we have in front of us throughout the day or whatever, when we sort of like page through Facebook or whatever,
Yeah.
if a comment or topic or some sort of call to engagement it pops up in front of our face, we instinctually process it as it's a direct knock at our door and say, "Hey, would
Yeah.
you like to purchase Girl Scout cookies?"
Right.
And I think there's an aspect of that, and the most extreme people, whatever that means. I mean, in whatever subject,
Hmm.
will opine as well, and sometimes people won't match um, any semblance of normality in their,
Hmm.
or their level of capacity with the information or the question or comment posed in front of them. They won't respond um, with much detail, because they may have not of processed the information. They're not capable of. Some people are. Some people are too
Or maybe they just don't know.
some people don't know, but they'll comment anyways with
Yeah.
whatever available knowledge that they have. And so you'll get that kind of a situation. And then people, like I mentioned, will toss up a meme saying, "Oh, great, now everybody's a
Yeah.
neuroscientist."
Well, Jim Dockrell says it right here. People who were expert in contagious diseases a few months ago are now experts on international diplomacy and war tactics.
That's
Yeah.
the one. Yeah.
That's an excellent point. But you had a good point too, in that it can be just something simple and silly as Girl Scout cookies.
Well,
Because now you got to have that whole, is it Thin Mints or Samoas?
yeah.
And the Girl Scouts just, they're going, look, I got these cookies. I don't care which one you buy. In fact, I hope you buy both. You
Well,
know?
yeah, absolutely. It could be anything that's maybe on the serious side, or it could be something so simple and like daily, sort of like just routine like
Mhm.
that. And people still, and it's also whatever catches their eye. If you happen
Yeah.
to be doing stuff around the yard, and you come in, and it just so happens you open up Facebook, and you know how it scrolls through like a new news feed. If you
Uh-huh.
open up your Facebook and the first thing there, whatever that might be, is there, and it strikes your fancy, or a call to action on your part, you very, and let's say at the same time you stubbed your toe, uh, at the same time, um, so many different, you may end up cursing the guy
Yeah.
just to get
Well,
yours out.
that's true, but then that comes into self-control because, he didn't do it. But yeah, your point is well taken. But you got to admit, some of those memes are actually pretty good. I mean, a mutual friend of ours put up one the other day and said, "Wait a minute, it's monkeypox season. I still have my Ukraine decorations up." You know, and it's like, yeah, that's true. We got to have something new
Yeah,
to
but my
work ourselves up about that. But
but on
yeah.
the other side of that is that it's actually very normal for people to
Mhm.
react to current affairs. It's just that we have the vehicle now to do it very instantaneously, so
Oh
that
yeah,
other people can see it, and so we have
yeah,
all that. But so, although the criticism is an obvious one, that shouldn't be tossed aside, because it's an obvious thing now. Everybody's freaking like neuroscientists or whatever,
yeah,
or Middle Eastern affairs type, or Ukrainian, what. um Even though that's fair to point out, it's also, I wonder if the people that point that out understand that it's a normal function to also deep. Uh, uh,
yeah.
I was about to say a 1970s, just a regular housewife. I was about to say, and I said it. Well, because today you can't. That's another thing too. But a regular person out selling in a corner, and a physician,
Mhm.
a lawyer, just anybody along the spectrum of possibilities will come across a single comment,
Yeah.
and according to their angle,
Mhm.
plus all the things that might be affecting them, if they
Yeah.
don't have self control, like you had mentioned before, they could write any number of things, and that could lead to a whole battle.
Oh, I know it. I'm
You
an
know,
admin. I'm an admin in a group that specializes in CNC routers for people that are just getting started. And somebody will come in with a legit question and say, "I tried to do this, and it won't do that. What am I doing wrong?" And he'll get 30 replies, and out of those 30 replies, maybe 3 are actually of any kind of value.
yeah,
And you have to wonder. And this is a big group. We're talking 20, 26, 27,000 members. So you have to wonder what goes through a person's mind. Why would you throw in a comment if you don't know what, if you don't know an answer, you know?
yeah.
Um, I flipped the switch on the wall and the light came on, blinked really bright, and then went out. What did I do wrong? Did you try turning it off and then turning it back on again? Yeah, I did. I got nothing. Well, then why are you answering?
I've had people say,
You
when I
know?
ask a question, I've had people say, and actually write, and it be the first comment. I don't know.
Yeah. What? Then why are you typing?
Because of that I said, in their
Yeah.
mind, probably at that moment, for whatever
Mhm.
reason, they're like, "Oh, he's asking a question, and I
Mhm.
don't know. Let me go ahead and add that to the conversation."
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah. Now,
but
if they
it's
tagged
silly.
you, if you tagged me and said, "Mark, how about this?" and I didn't have an answer, I would go in and say I don't know. But if you just put up there, does anybody know why this is this? I'm not going to go in and go, well, I don't.
Right. It's just it's
Why?
not it's it's extra information that has no information of import.
My father used to say, "You're just talking to hear your head rattle." I think that's what it is. It's the text version of you're just talking to hear your head rattle. Now,
It,
if
it,
it's like, man, I don't know, I'd like to get the answer to this one too. Anybody? That at least is a little bit helpful. That's letting folks know, well, there's more than one guy that needs to know the answer to this.
yeah, that's different.
Yeah.
Other than just saying, I don't know, but
Like,
I'm putting my 2 cents
well,
in, which is zero.
you know, well, on my Ford Explorer, when I lift the door handle, it does this. Well, on my Chevy truck, it does this. Well, nobody asked you about your Chevy truck. I'm asking about a Ford Explorer. Well, my Rambler station wagon used to do that. Oh, you had a Rambler, and then it's just there's three guys taking a trip down memory lane and all the old cars they used to have.
Yeah.
Like, get off it, will you?
I mean, that's how the thing. But no, I do want to mention what I had not mentioned that I wanted to mention the bit. So
Sorry.
in the no, this was all good because it's part of the so because of the events that have occurred, and there's been many events like riots and all sorts of stuff. I've seen people, because of the emotion and the anger, um we all have, or a lot of us have done it, some sort of comment and stuff concerning some sort of event or whatever. I mean, just people um do add these things, but I've seen today, especially, or just today, it's actually the thing where people have commented saying, because of the events that occurred, they're saying we need to pass a law, or we need to make it law, something to that. I'm paraphrasing terribly, but I've
Sure.
seen more than one person already today say it, suggesting this in America, in the U.S., where no trial, no jury, we boom, take them out right there and then, because of the horrible
Yeah.
crime that was committed. Um, and I can't help but think to myself when I see that, and to make it the law of the land that you kill someone and what and leave it be, because the point is that the crime, the act, is so heinous
Mm-hmm.
that let's get rid of this because we don't need all that extra stuff. However, that who says what a person did or didn't do in order to get in a society where we have, and this is not to talk about the specific, it's
Mm-hmm.
the moral of the thing. If you're on
Well,
scene and you have to take someone out because you have to stop a butchering, that's one thing. But to blanket a country with no rule of law when it comes to it could be used, well, you can see how the problems could
oh
arise from,
yes, oh yes,
you know.
oh yes, big time. But it's understandable that some people would have a knee jerk reaction like that.
Yeah,
You can follow the logic, you can follow their outrage, and I think a lot of us would be less than honest to say we haven't had thoughts like that of our own. But to actually take it to the next step and make that the law of the land, I mean, do we really want Wild Wild West out in the street in front of our house?
that's exactly the problem
You know,
right there. That's
so
the problem. Do we want that?
I mean, as it sits right now, I'm constantly surprised that this country doesn't break out into 160 million separate fistfights every day. But I think it's because normally, obviously there are exceptions, normally people on a face-to-face basis don't act like that, because you will type anything. You can type anything. And we probably all have typed something we would never dare to say to another person face to face. There's a lot of power in the anonymity of the keyboard.
Except in our case.
you know.
Except in your case, and my case, and many of the people out there in the
Well,
chats.
yes, if you have, if yes, if you have to keep a certain level of decorum, yes, but I mean, we're all capable of it.
Oh yeah,
Just
we're capable.
so many people decide to go ahead and do it, and I still don't understand that mindset. 'Cause I think that's more what we're talking about is the mindset that would go in that direction.
Well, this is a lighter version of what I was suggesting earlier,
Yes, I
but it goes to the mind of a person that wants to.
but I think it's the same mindset where one person is taking it out on the keyboard, but another wants to physically go grab a weapon and head downtown.
Oh, I
Look
thought
for
you were talking
somebody,
about people. Are you talking about a person committing a crime, or are you talking about the person
the response to
suggesting
the crime.
the response to the crime situation is in the case of making it so that no jury,
Yeah.
no information, that concept and a typing,
Mhm.
and sort of like like letting loose on the typewriter or typewriter, the keyboard, typewriter.
Well, to me,
It,
they're the same thing in varying degrees because the person who wants to pass a law is one step away from the pitchfork and torches.
oh, they're right there at the door.
Yes. And the person on the keyboard is a step below that. They want something done, they want to vent their outrage. They just don't want to do it in a physical way.
The key word
Mm-hmm.
is vent to me,
Mm-hmm.
because and the other one can be just the suggestion that was suggested, about no law, doing away with process and getting the job done
Yeah.
of taking someone out due to the heinousness of a crime. That's a suggestion that leads to very horrible things, because
Mm-hmm.
then you could basically off anybody and
Oh,
then claim that no, they were fixing to this and this and
yeah.
that.
And that's what I mean about the wild, wild west out in your living, out in your the house in front of, or the road in front of your house.
Now, the person typing some stuff on the keyboard, besides that, because both of them are typing stuff on the keyboard, but um, I guess they're not comparable. But typing creates a venting, like you said. It allows for escape, steam escape, and when you release pressure, people aren't ready to jump on other people's backs as much
Yeah.
necessarily. So this type of thing that we're involved in also serves as relief valves for pent up societal and personal individual problems as
Well,
well.
to me, I see that screaming for a law in is much the same as it's just as emotional of a reaction as
Yeah,
wanting to grab the pitchfork and torch. I
yeah.
think it's along the same lines. They want to act out in outrage in the only way they can see how.
I just found
You
that the
know,
principle the so I just
but
found that the go ahead.
well, I agree that the principle is all wrong, but I think it's a knee jerk reaction.
Right, they're just saying it, but the scary part is, or it's sort of scary. Actually, it's pretty scary when I saw that a few times, a
Mhm.
similar type of with friends of
Mhm.
mine,
Yeah.
saying it. So if it were individualistic, like let's say I'm at the scene, I'm gonna
Well,
take the person out. I don't want that, but you have to save lives, innocence.
well,
You have to protect.
understood.
But well, no, let me say the bit. So there is a difference too between law of the land and individual situations that are imminent and immediate, and decisions have to be made. But because just because there's imminent situations doesn't mean that the law of the land should be
Well,
um
but see, I don't think that they're
less.
thinking. I don't think that they're actually thinking that far. I
No,
think that, and that's
exactly.
what I mean. I
Exactly.
I
That's
think
the scary part.
no, I think what I mean by that is I think that they're lashing out in anger the only way they know how.
Yeah, yeah, that's the
But
scary part.
but my point is it would never go to completion. It would never get that far. Well,
Oh
there ought
no.
to be a law about this, that, and the other. And then the next morning they wake up and they're off on something else. They completely forgot about it. They vented their spleen, they got it out of their system, it's done and over with.
Yeah, yeah, no, I get that. The scary part is that though,
Mm-hmm.
that their go-to solution,
Mm-hmm.
the
Well,
the
I
the,
mean, you know,
the go-to solution and to okay, so when I type something, I've typed some seriously stupid things in the past. Um um but the further I go in time, the less I think I'm typing stupid stuff in. But the thing is that in order from the moment you release some words, I've pulled some comments before as well because I figured, you know what, let's not go there, um, for whatever reason.
yeah.
But the moment you type something out, you're putting it out there, and and people may or may not receive it properly. But if I don't, and I think before I do that, sometimes I say,
Okay, but
I'll
you're
just say this.
thinking before
Hold on.
you
Let me
do it.
right. But hold on. Let me say this. Sometimes I'll type something that I know is not rough, but abrasive,
Uh-huh.
and I'll say screw it, and I'll click,
Mm-hmm.
even though it may not be very abrasive, but I'll do it anyhow. My perception is that it's abrasive because I'm kind of like being, but maybe it's not that abrasive. But the point is that I'll do that, but I recognize what's going on that I'm releasing. To not think about that comment about the law of the land, this and that. I know it's just a venting thing, but other people out there see that. There's people that think that way earnestly.
But dude, you're in a calm, collected state of mind right now. When that person typed that, they probably weren't.
That is a
That's
good
what
point.
I mean when I say they don't think that far. It's an emotional knee jerk reaction,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, and they're pissed and they got to get this out and boom. And it's an instant. They're not thinking. They're not in a calm, logical, analytical mindset like you are right now. That's why they typed it. Is because they're not in that type of a mindset.
Yeah.
They would probably, if they care, they would probably go back and change some of that if they could. I mean, how many times have, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I'll just use myself. The number of times that I have said something that I wish I could take back, I can't count the number of times. It's been that many. But once it's out there, it's too late, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And whether that be just dropping something on my foot and screaming one of the 7 words you can't say on television, and then have to turn around and say, sorry, Father, I didn't mean to say that, you know, it happens. I can't take it back. It's done. It's over with. With text, at least you can edit it, but that's what I'm getting at. I see that as the same kind of an emotional knee jerk reaction as the person who wants to pick up a weapon or pick up the pitchfork or light a torch or whatever.
That's
They're
what it seems to be. That's what
it,
it seems to be.
it's not a rational, thought out statement. It's just knee jerk. It's
Here's the thing. Now let me unpack the thing. So yes, I agree with you. Here's the thing. I don't know whether or not, because according to what you just said, is that they're not being rational, and I agree with that because that's not a that's to a point. That's a thinking. That's an instantaneous, um, satisfying a need
uh-huh.
instantaneously with
Yeah.
the future consequences. Let them be damned.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it implies horrible things for the rest of our society. But they're not thinking. But here's
No,
the
they're
thing,
thinking of that specific person right now.
right?
Mhm.
Um, but we don't know that.
Well, I understood. We
Now,
don't.
now here's my point. There's people. So I would like to think that
Mhm.
that it's just a momentary lapse of whatever. But in and I don't even know what I'm about to say is true or not. But I think it
Mhm.
in the across the board, across
Uh-huh.
society, there are people that say such things that appear to it appears that it's some sort of ideology way of thinking about how to
Well,
solve the ills of our society, where they loosen a certain control or they restrict a certain. There's
yeah.
people that won't. What, you don't think so?
No, I agree. Yeah,
Oh,
there
okay.
there are.
Okay, so yeah, so and that's what's scary, to that people will say such things, and we
Well,
don't know if they're serious or not.
well,
Maybe they're just releasing hot air, like you're suggesting, which is actually a completely valid thing. But there has to be a large number. I'm
sure,
thinking I may not be right, but there has to be a
sure.
large number of people
But
out there that are totally on board with that, as like, let's do this as a done deal.
well,
you
but
know
I see. I don't find that. Well, I find it troubling, but I don't find it scary because there are not enough. There's not
well, I don't
enough
even
of
I
them.
don't know. See,
Yeah,
that's the problem. I don't know.
Well,
I
if
I,
if
I don't
if
know.
if there were enough, it would be a law.
That is true. Thank goodness.
So, you
Thank it.
know,
You know. Well, we do need process. Yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah, I agree with that there. And Jim Docker also says the same people who are screaming that there ought to be a law are probably the same people who get angry at any kind of government interference. But if it affects them personally, probably,
Yeah, that
you
depends
know.
on each. That depends on. Um, it just
Well,
maybe it just depends on the
well,
scenario. But yeah, it
I'll
could
I'll
be.
give you I'll give you an example of that. Okay, up here in Oregon, the electric vehicle people, and I've mentioned this before, but the electric vehicle people were getting real smug on Facebook and what have you. And, oh, poor baby, gas is up to $4 and whatever a gallon. Yeah, you still think my Tesla's goofy? We don't pay gas tax. Yeah, we don't pay the gas tax. Ha ha ha! Enjoy your fuel. Enjoy paying that gas tax. Well, what they don't realize is that those things resonate, and the more you say stuff like that, there are ears out there.
Yeah.
And it struck a few people, the powers that be up in Salem, that, you know what? They're right. They don't pay gas tax. And the gas tax is supposed to pay for maintenance of the roads. They're not paying for the maintenance of the roads that they're using. We
Yeah.
got to do something about that. So what they do now is they have an electric vehicle surcharge when you go to register your new Tesla. We pay in our gasoline vehicles, we pay $65 a year. They pay $300 a year because they figure that's going to cover about what we pay in gas taxes over the course of a year. So they hit them with an electric vehicle surcharge, and it costs them a lot of money to register their cars because they issue registrations here for 2 years. So we go down to get to register the car for 2 years, it's $130. They're paying out $600 to get those tags. All because they were feeling self-righteous and
Yeah. They don't
sitting
escape.
upon the sitting upon the high horse. Well, welcome to the low horse.
You sound outwardly slightly satisfied
I
with with
am.
with that.
I'm very satisfied because what I don't know, maybe this is a character defect of mine, but I do enjoy it. So, um I enjoy somebody who believes they hold the moral high ground getting slapped down. And I enjoy the heck out of that. It's kind of like if you go on YouTube, you see the videos of the cocky boxer who talks a lot of smack and gets knocked out in the first round by the guy who wasn't acting like a jerk.
Yeah.
Those are satisfying too. I guess it's karma. I love a good dose of karma every now and then. Now,
You know,
I
you know.
I don't take joy in the misfortune of others.
No,
But
I
I
get what you're saying.
believe if you're going to slap fate in the face, you better be prepared for the left hook.
What I love about that, what I love about that, it's a funny thing, but and we've talked about this before, but I really love it in fitting in with what you're saying now, is that for a lifetime, back in the day, we would see the movies of the day, and one of them was the Karate Kid,
Mm-hmm.
and in that movie there was a definite bad guy,
Uh-huh.
and the pupil bad guy. And then there was Johnny LaRusso, which was the Karate Kid and the good kid and this and that. And you left the movie completely saying that no, absolutely, those bad guys were really arrogant and pushy and like scumbaggy. And
Uh-huh.
good for Johnny LaRusso, the Karate Kid. He even gets the girl. And then forward like what 30 years or 40 years,
Mm-hmm.
and then they came out with this Netflix or Netflix. It's on Netflix now, but it originally started on YouTube, and then they sold it to Netflix.
Uh-huh.
The Cobra Kai series, and these geniuses, in my opinion, frankly, they took a series, and maybe it's because I'm fond of it since it's like looking back from when I
Yeah.
was a kid, but um, they took the characters and did a complete 180 and freaking turn the bad guy. One of the bad guys is still a bad guy, the older gentleman, the sensei, but the kid, that the blonde kid that fought
Mm-hmm.
LaRusso, that he swept the leg and this and that. In this series, he's actually the good guy, and the way they did it was re um like retelling the story and showing by the chronological order that in fact what we thought was the bad guy back then was completely not true. In fact, they turned LaRusso into a complete jerk, and it works. And it's like holy perspective change. And I don't know, it's so funny. So I added that
Well,
there because we may be we may be one position now, and then 20 years from now we might think something different.
JP Woodwork out there. Daniel LaRusso won that fight with an illegal kick. Okay, now I've got to claim ignorance because I wasn't a kid when that movie came out. That was
Yeah.
that was an 80s thing. I was grown and gone and doing something else. I have never seen that movie.
You've never seen a Karate Kid?
I have never seen that movie. No.
Okay. All right. Well, you should watch it, and if you want to, and then follow it with the series. I
Mm-hmm.
think that, but it takes 30 years to really crystallize the
Well,
good and bad guys, and then have it be spinned around on its tail.
that is something that is a fairly new phenomenon. And when I say
Yeah.
fairly, I mean starting from like the
2020s or
no, it was a
18s.
little earlier than that. It was a lot earlier than that. It was early 70s, maybe late 60s that people
Okay.
started to romanticize the bad guy. You know, you
Okay.
see it. I'll throw one at you. Star Wars. You always had that percentage of the population who thought Darth Vader was the good guy.
I mean,
You know,
they
they
may have liked him, but
romanticize the bad guy.
yeah.
You know,
I mean, it's not
and
quite because we're talking about a complete script. We're actually
right,
within the
understood.
movie.
But I
Yeah.
mean, but that's taking it to its, to the farthest extreme where you
Yeah.
make the bad guy the good guy. But he was in this other situation. When you see it through his eyes, he wasn't the bad guy. He was actually just some guy trying to get along. And circumstance led to this confrontation and this, that, and the other.
Yeah.
But that started they started romanticizing the bad guy and kind of making him a cult hero, even though he was clearly the bad guy.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I don't
No.
know.
Yeah.
It's just a
No. No.
strange thing to me.
No. I mean, bad guys are dangerous, risky business, and people like that, the sense
Hmm.
of adventure. And you could, and you could, in comic books, they did that actually. Back in the day, there were some supervillains that
Hmm.
became superheroes in the Marvel universe,
Oh yeah,
and they did that in comic books. And I know that the cowboy with the black hat and whatnot.
sure.
There was a sense of danger, but yeah, that's cool.
But
But here,
the cowboy with the black hat was dehumanized. He was just seen as pure evil. He was the bad guy. There was nothing good about him, you know. But you get later in, and I know what you're talking about, how they, like Thanos, they, in the Marvel series, they humanized him. And they explained, well, this is why he's got to destroy half of the living creatures in the universe. And, and to kind of drum up a little sympathy for him a little bit. It's romanticizing that bad guy. And it's like, look, it doesn't matter why he wants to do it.
I don't know if you know what, I watched them, but like, did you watch that? Because I don't
No,
know.
I didn't. I've seen clips.
Yeah, I don't know that he was. I mean, that guy was like
Yeah,
not a
but
likable character.
you get what I'm saying. And no, he wasn't a likable character, but you get
Yeah,
what I'm saying. That part where he's just sitting there and he's telling the story of why he's doing this. That's an attempt to humanize the bad
I
guy.
didn't see that. Did you see that part?
I saw a clip. Yeah.
Okay, I hadn't, because I couldn't, I can't sit through
Hmm.
these superhero things today. Maybe it's
Yeah.
because I've grown out of it. I Some of them I can, like WandaVision.
Hmm.
That's one that's really interesting. They turn this. She used to be a bad super villain
Hmm.
that turned into an Avenger,
Hmm.
um, with Captain America and all these people. But the series was well done. But
Hmm.
it's too much. But yeah, long story short, sometimes villains, they get the humanizing treatment, and
Hmm.
people can identify, at least in part, with
Yeah.
these super villains, let's say, or bad guys.
Yeah.
It definitely is part of the whole thing. But boy,
Yeah.
to change the script around like they did with Karate Kid was interesting, Mark.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it
Hmm.
when I started watching it. I was like, they convinced me that what I thought back in the '80s, I was totally wrong,
Yeah.
because they have the ability to do that because they can change the script. But
Well,
it's
I
a
mean,
nice trick.
it does sound interesting. But again, I have no frame of reference because I never saw the first movie, so I don't know.
You never watched any of the karate and
No,
ninja movies from back in the day?
no, I was grown and gone. I was married. I had kids. I was in the army. I was off doing all that stuff. I mean, I knew it was around. It just didn't interest me at the time. You
We
know.
loved the ninja movies. My friend Ernie and I would. There was one movie called American Ninja,
Hmm.
and we went to see it in the movie theaters, and then we'd rent it on VHS, and we'd watch it again and again, because that was the era of like the ninjas and this and
Well,
that.
now you were how old at the time? Would you say?
With this movie, I don't know. Um,
Do you think you were 12?
it could have been. I'll tell you. I met my friend Ernie roughly sometime between '86, more than likely '86, but between
Okay.
'86 and '87.
Okay.
Between the times of be, between the times of, like I wrote about my friend George, um, between '86 and '87, between Top
Okay.
Gun being released and um, what do you call this? Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. So
Okay.
we're
Now
talking.
I saw Top Gun. Um, so I was 25, 26, 27 years old by then. So I don't even remember what I was doing at the time. I
You were
know it
20
was in
something.
the, yeah, yeah.
I was in
So,
junior. I was in junior high.
well, I'm 14 years older than you are. So I was in 86, I was 25 years old.
Yeah,
So,
I,
yeah.
I was I was in junior high and whatever. But what I wanted to say is that um, because we were right in the, so we were the kids literally
Mhm. Yeah.
of that era of the
And
80s.
that's who that target audience was. Now,
Yeah.
yeah, now that doesn't mean that we didn't get into the martial arts thing, because I remember going to the Bruce Lee movies at the drive-in, Enter the Dragon and all the rest.
That's
I
right.
went I went to the drive-in to go see that.
No,
And when
that's right.
I was a kid, it was the Green Hornet and Bruce Lee was his driver Kato.
Yeah.
And to me, that was just some of the greatest stuff in the world. I mean, Batman and the Green Hornet, are you kidding me? That was killer stuff, man. But we're looking at 67, 68. I was 6, 7 years old.
Well, both these eras
Mm-hmm.
that are quite different from each other
Mm-hmm.
are closer to each other than we are closer to any of those eras from
Right.
this point right now.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So
there's a, yeah,
you see what
really,
I'm
actually,
saying?
yes, I do. But you see, there's a good example right there. Nobody humanized the Joker in the 60s Batman series. He
No.
was just the bad guy, and that was all there was to it. Same
Yeah.
with the Riddler, the Penguin, all of them. They were just the bad guys.
Yeah.
And Batman and Robin were the good guys, and that was it.
You know, there's a movie, Mark. It's very disturbing, but well done. I actually, I actually told Patrick's to go check it out, and Patrick's from Patrick's Workshop, and I think he did try and start, and he said that's the worst Batman movie I've ever seen in my life. And to me, it's probably one of the best, even though Batman does not show up whatsoever. It's called The Joker
Mhm.
with Joaquin Phoenix.
I've heard of
In
it,
the
but
role.
I've not seen it.
So his transformation in that movie and the story of the Joker
Mhm.
coming to be
Yeah.
is wild. It's
Yeah.
a more gritty, dark
Mhm.
sort of movie, but there's a lot of crazy stuff, and the way it's well filmed, produced, acted, written, the whole nine yards. And they portray the Joker as a very tortured soul, and there is a humanity to him in it, but
Mhm.
boy,
Yeah.
whacked out of his head. I think
Yeah.
that's more as opposed to the 1960s, like um, Batman and Robin's,
Mhm.
TV show.
Well,
That's like a crazy departure from the more
well,
slapstick type,
yeah,
fun.
you got to remember that this was in the 60s on prime time, so it was pretty tame, you
Very,
know. So,
very,
yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
It was very.
Linda says I was in the army. It came out in 1984. Linda and I got married in 88. Yeah. So I was still married to my first wife in 84. I was in the army. Yeah, stationed at Fort Ord, California.
Yeah,
So,
and then so when you guys were doing all of that, just
mhm.
to put it in perspective, I mean, you already got the point, but just so that I can personally remember and share it. What date were we saying?
84, 1984.
Okay, so 84. To just to place myself in perspective, my I had I had been back from leaving my house here where I'm at
Mhm.
for a year. I
In
moved just down the
84.
street. That I had been back
Mhm.
from the year prior or 2 years one of the other prior. I spent like a year, maybe about 2-3 miles away at my grandparents'
Oh,
house
okay, okay, okay.
because my folks were having were you thinking California that I
Yeah,
left
I
the
was
whole
thinking
weekend?
California. That's what I was thinking. Is he
You
thinking
were
94 or 04?
um so so I had just and when I had come back, it was an explosion of kids that I started to
Oh, okay.
hang out with, and at that, so 84 would have been where me and my friends would hang out on the hoods of cars watching the older kids with their rock and roll t-shirts walking down the street,
Yeah.
and us borrowing their cassette tapes, maybe riding around on bikes, on skateboards and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's what we were doing when you were fumbling around and moving from one spot to the other and climbing and
Yeah.
helicoptering and whatever the case might be.
Digging into, well, at that time I was in field artillery, so I was digging foxholes and working on a radar crew. So yeah, it
So
was all the same. So yeah,
think about that.
it was a wild time. It was a wild time, but
But that difference of activity is
yeah,
from a previous age for you, for
yep,
sure. That I was experiencing at that time when you were doing that.
hmm
And if you return us back to the future here where we're sitting right now,
yeah.
and we look behind us at the past, we're talking
Well,
we're talking about ancient history.
yeah, but then again, that's part of what this whole thing is all about. It's two people from not really different generations, but from different ages.
We're the same generation, funny enough.
We
Although
are the same generation, but we're from different ages because you were 80s, different decades, not generations. You
decades,
were 80s and I was more 60s and 70s.
we could cross generations in certain cases. Um,
Yes, we could.
but in our situation, I'm at the tail end.
hmm
I mean, I'm at the middle to tail end of,
hmm
because not 10 years after, or no, not 8 years after something, that it becomes that newer generation. But I was at the latter,
hmm
mid to latter half of the Generation X, because you're Generation X, although you
Well,
could, in theory.
it depends on who you talk to. Some people would call me a boomer. Some people would call me Gen X. It just, I don't know.
It's a moving thing.
Sure.
It's just a place marker to sort of get an idea.
Yeah.
You're closer to that beginning spot
hmm
between the boomer and Generation X
Yeah.
beginning. And I'm closer to, really, because 75,
hmm
that would be the middle, rounding it
Oh
off.
my
So somebody
gosh.
born in 81
Uh-huh.
or 82, I think it is the cutoff. Maybe it's 88. I'm not sure. Let me see
I'm
what
not sure.
let me see, just for the heck of it.
I'm not sure. But
What's
you
the
missed
cutoff?
you.
What's the cutoff? Oh shoot! What's the cutoff for Generation X?
Between 1975 and 1979-80, according to Kazasa,
1979 or 80
Okay.
is the and 69. It said. Did it say 69? Dang it!
From 69 to 80.
So you're not. So you're in the boomer.
Yeah.
So you're
But
actually a boomer.
but I have seen other people say no, you're actually Generation X because you weren't part of the baby boom because
65, 65, not 69.
okay, 65. Yeah, so I was born in 61.
You're a boomer
So
then.
yeah, well, that's what some say, and others say no. It just, I don't care. What I call myself. I call myself Generation uses proper grammar and punctuation in text messages. That's what I am.
And text messages?
Yeah,
And
in text messages.
Oh,
Yes.
okay, because you're using the technology
Yes,
of
but
of,
I do it on the PC. If I don't know if you've noticed, but when I PM you anything, there is capital first letters capitalized. There's a period at the end. If I take a break, there's a comma in the middle. If I'm gonna use a quotes, I comma quote capital letter end quote or punctuation then close quote. Yeah, that's what I do because that's the way I was taught to write.
well, it makes it easier. See, here's the thing about that. Now that you mentioned that, it makes it easier for me to understand you.
Mhm,
Sometimes I'm like, when I write you, I do the
mhm.
same thing. I don't know if you've
Yeah,
noticed. I do the commas, and
yeah.
I'll I'll occasionally make a few mistakes, or by sheer click of a key, I'll mess up.
Oh,
Um,
I
and
do too.
and I'm by no means any English expert writer, but I do use all the different
Mhm.
tools that are some of the important ones. Um, but that said, and I would assume you can kind of understand what I write when I do what I
Oh
do,
yeah,
right?
yeah. To me,
Okay.
you write just like I write.
However, however, isn't it true, when you're surfing the interwebs in
Mhm.
places like, let's say, Facebook or whatever, isn't it true? You tell me, but you'll run across whole conversations, Mark,
Oh yeah.
where it is on you to decipher
Figure it out. Yeah.
where something is stopping and ending and what the context is and what it's not, just in case. That complication is problematic because you're expected, when they write poorly, you're expected to translate the hieroglyphic
Yeah.
properly and respond correctly to what they're asking you or whatever. And
Yeah,
you
I
can't
don't know
barely
if
do it.
they're practicing for a career in making license plates or what they're doing. But it's K, thanks, bye, and it's KTHXBY. It's like, can you spell? Did you learn English? I am that guy. I'm sorry. When I see one long sentence that starts with the lowercase letter and there's no punctuation in it at all, I want to make a meme of Samuel L. Jackson in that movie. I can't remember which movie that is, but
Pulp Fiction? Oh,
punctuation MFer, do you use it? I want to make that meme because it's like, I have no idea what you just wrote. All I see is a wall of text and it all runs together.
well,
So,
I mean, it's you can make a lot. You that can actually start whole international conflicts in the wrong if it were
yeah.
applied in the wrong if let's say two people that write poorly um on some sort of strategic like um country to country
Oh, yeah.
negotiation level and you one missed comma
Oh,
or
yeah.
exclamation point could mean disaster.
Or one mistranslated word.
Yeah.
Maybe you meant to say welcome. It's a pleasure to meet you. But what you actually said was, your daughter's pregnancy brings shame to the village. I mean, you got to be careful, man. And don't go in there all confident, just kind of, all right.
And a lot of people also, we have talked about this in the past, but I kind of find it fascinating. A lot of people also do take the the leap of
Uh-huh.
like, let's say like you and I are talking now, and even though you and I are talking, by sheer my facial sort of, let's say, tick at one point in our conversation, it could throw you off
Yeah.
to think that, oh
Oh,
well, maybe he's meaning it one way. But when it comes to writing,
mm-hmm. You
even
got
if
nothing.
you've got nothing, but even
Yeah.
right, but even with if you take all the precautions necessary in order to get your meaning across, people will still completely butcher your meaning.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, that's called selective moral outrage and selective listening. They pick out the little bits and pieces that they want out of that and completely throw away everything else that doesn't fit their narrative
Yeah.
or their preconceived notions. I did it to you, not knowing it, a couple of times this evening. You were like, "What, you don't agree?" And I was like, "Well, yeah, I do agree. That's what I was saying."
Oh,
But
I misinterpreted.
something about my facial expression or an action or a reaction or something like that made you think that it was completely
Different.
the opposite. Yeah.
That's a
So
very good observation. Yeah.
so if are not sure, oh wow, there was I want to say it happened in the Netherlands. There was this woman who went it was in Amsterdam. She went to the Amsterdam Zoo every day and she would sit by this gorilla's cage and just sit there and look into his eyes and just smile at him and just think, I'm bonding with this gorilla, and just smile
Yeah.
and just look at him. Well, what she didn't know was that is seen as an act of aggression to a gorilla.
Right.
The baring of teeth is a show of intimidation and looking directly in the eye.
So that gorilla was
And
crapping its pants.
the worst did happen. It ended up getting a hold of her somehow and yanked her into the cage. It bit her over 100 times and just beat the woman to death. Well, almost to death. I think she did survive. But she thought that she was connecting with and bonding with this animal, and unbeknownst to her, she spent weeks pissing him off,
And like staring it down.
Yes,
And that gorilla was
because
probably
that's
thinking,
what that means to them.
right. So that gorilla was probably thinking, can you believe
She was hyping that gorilla up. Yeah.
that gorilla was probably like, can you believe this lady? She comes down here every same day, same
Yeah.
hour, and just
Oh,
stares
no,
my
not
ass
this
down.
one. Yeah, exactly. So, but you put that now, we're supposed to be more civilized than a silverback, but
Dude, that's
yeah.
insane. Well, I'll tell you this, Mark. I'll tell you this. With my dog, I've taught him since he was little. Believe it or not, dogs aren't supposed to, just like what you just mentioned, dogs will briefly look at you, but they'll lower their head, and like they don't have to be focused on you. They think that they're submitting when they, just, and so what I've taught him since he was little was to look at me when he wanted something. And I've repeated it so many times, and it goes against their nature because I am the authority, and but I've taught him so many times that now, like, let's say I'll be working on the computer, and I'll be, stretch, and I'll turn my head and stuff, and he'll be standing in the hallway looking at me, and I know that I know that what he wants is a treat, and so it's kind of like, so in our little world, I've taught him that, and it's kind of worked out,
But see, that's training. So, but I mean, we anthropomorphize something ferocious here, but what can you say? But that misinterpretation, that woman almost got killed.
Well, yeah, dude. I mean, that's
yeah.
Because
it was literally the 800-pound gorilla in the room. So,
yeah, dude, they've got muscle, they've got poundage on them.
Yeah,
we are not
very strong.
We're not comparable strength wise by any. I think they're like 10 times stronger than us,
something like that.
10 times. I mean, we're not very, very strong. We're pretty strong, but 10 times stronger. I think that's the number.
Something like that. Well, you got to figure they outweigh us. Their muscular strength is much, much bigger, but they have to fight for their food, and we don't in most times.
Well, luckily, it's an amazing thing, dude, because you know what? Even though, you and I sitting here are, you're quite the respectable, civilized human being, like myself and everyone out here. We're quite respectable. Well, no, get this. And I know we know this, but I'm saying it because I don't know. I enjoy the thing. We're quite respectable people that we can think, and we're not going to go to blows here anytime soon, ladies and gentlemen. But with all the sophistication that we can wrap ourselves, we are literally the most freaking dangerous conceivable creature on this planet.
Well, the main difference between us and everything else that we consider to be dangerous is we have a conscience. A consciousness of that fact. We supposedly know the difference between dangerous and safe, supposedly, but the Bambi generation believes that life out there in the wild is just all sweetness and bluebirds and everything else, and just it isn't.
Hey, dude, I mean, we weren't there, so we don't know, but let me say, we're not the strongest physically of all creatures living on this great earth. However, boy, oh boy, I mean, for all the negativity thrown at human beings, and
some of it's deserved, some of it's not.
By human beings, mind you. We're kind of the top. I don't even hate to say it. We are the top of the totem pole as far as that's concerned, as far as the ability to do some savage stuff
intellectually, and I hesitate to say culturally, but I'll say it culturally. Yeah, we are the top, but that doesn't mean we get everything right. So
well, just the fact. Well, yeah, just the fact. I mean, just the fact that we can contemplate that you just
Well,
suggested.
it's that whole opposable thumb plus consciousness kind of helps.
Boy, it's not a little thing to think about, because just the same, it could be Planet of the Apes all the way.
Yeah.
Like the 1960s 70s series.
Yeah. Yep. I saw the first one and it was kind of like, okay. And then they started coming out with Linda and I were having this discussion earlier today. They have to save the franchise. They came out with Beneath the Planet of the Apes, a Return to the Planet of the Apes, and Planet of the Apes 3, Electric Boogaloo, or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And it just became ridiculous,
Yeah.
Planet of the Apes 29, The Apology, whatever.
Yeah.
The first one was good enough, but now, I mean, the lack of imagination that's out there anymore, I don't know. And the problem is there are so many good stories out there that could be turned into films that just aren't, because they have to save the franchise. So now we're in Star Wars episode 750. It's like,
I don't. So okay, so I'll say, so maybe that's true. I mean, I agree with you, but why, the reason I said maybe that's true is that if we were kids, would we think of it the same? Because we have the vantage of so much time behind us, whatever that amount of time is, where we've seen a few stories come and go. We've seen a few stories be repeated. So all these things are not fresh to us. It's very hard to surprise. Like, let's say, I would say it's very hard to surprise you necessarily with anything it has to be very novel.
Yeah, it does have to be novel.
Because other than that, it's like,
to be honest with you, I think we ran out of stories centuries ago, personally.
I think so.
If you look at The Lion King is nothing more than a remake of Shakespeare's Hamlet. It's basically the same story. Names have changed, and at no time does Hamlet start singing Hakuna Matata, but it's the same story. Look at how many times they have remade Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah.
It's the same story in a different setting with different character names, but it's the same story. So, but if you were to see, I can't really fault them with that, simply because the target audience is the young adult. See, now that's why you connected with the Karate Kid and I didn't. And you connected with all of the ninja stuff and I didn't, because you were the target audience. I wasn't.
Yeah.
By that time, see, gosh, what was I watching? I was into Stephen King stories. I was watching Christine and Cujo and The Shining and things like that.
Yeah, but we watched that too.
Right. But to me, I wanted to see that more than I wanted to see the Karate Kid or the ninjas or stuff like that.
The other stuff was for kids, kind of.
And then with me growing up, it was Star Wars, and it was Smokey and the Bandit, and it was the California Kid, and Macon County Line, and stuff like that. It was the Dirty Mary and Crazy Larry.
My dad used to love
car adventure shows.
My dad used to love Smokey and the Bandits.
Mm-hmm.
He would get a kick out of all the gags in it. He'd just crack up. He loved the whenever they topple, like Jackie Gleason would topple into like the side of a road, or he'd smack his son upside the head.
Yeah,
he just found the whole thing just hilarious. It was great.
Yeah.
Cannonball Run,
Gumball Rally.
I never saw. Did you ever see the one? I found it really crazy. There was one, and I remember where it was a race, and it was a bunch of people. Was it Cannonball Run?
Well,
where they had a million a bunch of cars, and they had to end up in.
Well,
There was
Cannonball
another
Run and the Gumball Rally were very similar movies, but they were different cast, different producers, different directors. But it was about a coast to coast race on the streets. So I'm trying to think of Cannonball Run was Burt Reynolds.
Yeah,
And Dom DeLuise.
Yeah.
And let's see, who else was in it? My gosh. Sammy Davis Jr., Dean Martin. Gumball Rally was Michael Sarrazin and a few others. Gosh, I can't remember all the people. But they were both excellent movies anyway. And it was a race for $1 million coast to coast. Yeah.
Great stuff.
Yeah, it was. It was fun stuff. And I was their target audience because I was the kid who liked hot rods. You know.
If you have you ever tried with any of your younger family members, descendants and whatnot? Oh, go check out this movie, like some really old movie. And have you ever and they go and watch it? What reactions do they get? Because the reference points, do they translate well into the new era?
Some do, some don't. My youngest daughter is absolutely hooked on the Marx Brothers, all because of me. She thought that they were the most hilarious things in the world. Now she's 42 years old, and she still absolutely loves the Marx Brothers. And they were the 1920s, 30s, and 40s.
Right.
So I fell in love with the Marx Brothers watching A Night at the Opera. And then I had to go dive, head first into the Marx Brothers rabbit hole, and I never came up for air. And that got me hooked on a bunch of old comedy. And I got into stuff that I would never have normally thought of even looking into, simply because of that one movie, and made me a huge fan of classic comedies. Well, I got her hooked on that too. The oldest, she could care less. She laughed. She thought it was funny, but it's not her cup of tea.
Yeah.
But the youngest, she just ran with it. She thinks Harpo Marx is the greatest thing in the world.
Those older black and white movies.
Mm-hmm.
I liked it when I came across them on many levels, but the idea that you're going back in time and watching the vehicles of the era, the way people dressed, and all these little things, and you're watching it, it's a cozy, I always would get a little cozy vibe about sitting on a Sunday afternoon, maybe with my grandfather, maybe just laying in bed watching out of the little TV. Remember that? Did you ever have that little cozy sort of, this is good, and you're watching that old?
Yeah, certain flicks will give me that. Certain TV shows give me that too. But I don't know. For some reason, there are certain smells that bring that thing back to me. Like, have you ever heard of oh gosh, I had it on the tip of my tongue. It's not coffee. It's an instant beverage. It's made out of grain. Postum. It's called Postum. Postum. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
We used to have it when I was with my grandma and grandpa. We'd go camping, and they would drink coffee, and she would make us Postum. It was kind of tasted like coffee, but not quite.
I think of Sanka for some reason. Pops into my mind.
And the smell of that to this day, in fact, I went looking for some, and I can't find it anymore. I know I can order it online. In fact, I need to, because I want some. It just brings that entire thing back. Just the smell of that just brings back the entire feeling of being out in the camper with grandma and grandpa, sitting around in the little horseshoe-shaped dinette in their camper playing rummy before bedtime, and then getting up before the sun so we could get out on the lake at first light to go fishing.
Beautiful.
And that kind of thing. They say that the sense of smell is the biggest memory trigger there is. And I can kind of agree with that. I mean, you would know the smell of your grandma and grandpa's house, and you will remember that for the rest of your life.
I think that that's true because I'm here.
You know, well, but what I'm getting at is, but you also know the smell of your aunt's house, and you'll remember that for the rest of your life as well. And the minute you walk in the door, it's like, okay, yeah.
I have a bad sense. I don't mean to be shifty with it, but
Mhm.
I have genetically actually it made sense. I have a bad sense of smell.
Mhm.
So let them rip because I'm not going to tell the difference.
Okay, there, Frankie. He just did. Frankie CNC and Woodworking says opening a can of Play-Doh for the kids, getting
Wow.
a smell of that is like a time machine. Yes.
Wow.
Another one that does that to me, Frankie, is Silly Putty. Because I remember when Silly Putty first came out, it came in a little plastic egg and you popped
Yeah.
it open and stretched it out, played with it. We'd stick it on the comics page and then peel it up and look at the comic backwards and thought that was cool. That was how
Yeah.
easy we were to entertain. But the smell of that stuff, it just smack. I'm 5 years old in my laying down on my stomach on my grandma's floor, pushing that onto the comics page again.
I
You know,
did that too. We had that's an incredible. Yeah, that's an incredible thing. I've told you this one before, and I don't know that you had this, but we used to buy these little tubes with straws. You'd
Mhm.
puncture a hole in the tube like a little toothpaste,
Mhm.
and you pour a glob at the end of the straw, and you'd blow on it
Make balloons.
and make balloons that you could play around with. It was some sort of plasticky type thing.
Yeah, they still sell it at the dollar store.
Gosh, I gotta
That
get my
had a
hands on that.
that had a smell to it too.
Chemical up the yin yang, dude.
Oh, buddy, liquid vinyl is what it was.
That couldn't be good for. And
No.
we would sit there and blow in it, and we'd smell it. We
Mhm.
were probably getting all tore
Um,
up and didn't realize it.
Tester's model glue. And suddenly I'm 12 years old in my room putting together another model car. God, I bought model cars. Oh my
Are
God.
you sure you weren't getting them for the glue
Um,
for the fumes?
I might have been, but I was 10, 11, 12. I didn't care. I was building a model car.
No, I'm just saying these
And
things that nowadays would not. I can't believe they still sell that at the dollar store.
yeah, well, now, okay, now they did 3 years ago because I saw it there and I remember commenting on it. Holy cow, I didn't know they still made that stuff. Yeah.
Gosh, if you come across it, I don't.
Mhm.
It's a dollar store, but and you remember, um, that'd be cool if you could
Yeah.
produce one.
Frankie says it's not the same stuff. Oh, okay. All right. Well, if it's not the same stuff, all right.
Yeah, because I mean I want the overwhelming chemical fumes.
Yeah. Yeah. The one that smelled like a vinyl pool patch. That's another one people don't remember. David might. I see David Jones Portal Woodworks is out there now. David might remember this. Inner tube patches, monkey grip inner tube patches. Where you took the lid off of the can and you kind of scraped out the inner tube,
I remember
and
that.
then you had a little clamp that the patch was stuck to this metal. You put the patch down, you put the metal thing on top of it, and you screwed it down
Scratch.
real tight and you lit it on fire.
I remember the little metal scratch thing and the
And
thing. I
oh
was pretty
man,
young.
that thing stunk. But that's another one of those things that just holy cow.
We would puncture tires on our bikes all the time too.
Yeah. I would buy inner tubes, 4 at a time because I knew I was going to pop a tire.
I mean, it was.
Yeah.
You had to expect it. Crazy.
Mhm. And I never understood the whole patching an inner tube thing because inner tubes were like 75 cents. So Jim Dockerel has one here too. The smell of a cap gun. Did you play with
Yeah.
a cap gun?
Hell yeah.
Okay.
Hell
Well,
yeah.
I know they faded away, but I don't know
Oh,
exactly when they faded away.
dude, we
But
had cap guns, just all sorts of. Yeah, dude. We had
did
the bombs.
Okay, I was going to say, did you have the little chrome bomb missiles
Yeah.
to throw up in the air and it'd come down and bang? Yeah.
Well, they were recycling all the toys from your time and times before, and they just repackaging it slightly. Okay, do you remember? Let's see. You have to remember this because you more than likely played with this. Do you remember made out of tin and aluminum,
Mhm.
and what it was these little robot creatures or whatever dinosaurs, and you wind them, you set them on the ground, and they go.
Yeah. Oh,
And
yeah.
even cars.
Uh-huh.
That
Yeah.
came from your guys' time, or even before. Maybe I don't know. Maybe before.
We
Not, but
had, I bought probably, oh God, from the time I first remember getting one until the time I was 6 or 7 years old, I probably bought 100 of them. They were called crash cars, and they were cheap little plastic cars that had a rubber band loaded front bumper. And they freewheeled, they didn't have a spring or anything like that. You run it into an object, like you run it into a table leg or something like that, and the hood flew off, the doors flew off, the roof popped off, and the body split in half.
oh,
It just fell apart. And then you'd sit there and you'd put it all back together again, and then run it into the wall, and it would just explode like that again.
yeah.
But they broke after about 6 crashes. But they were like 15 cents. They were cheap plastic crap, but it was just funner than heck to run it into the wall and it just basically exploded. Or the little 5-cent and 10-cent balsa wood gliders. I don't know how
Yeah.
many of those I had and broke.
Or kites.
Oh yeah.
They would sell kites, and you'd go with your friends, and I'd bring them home, and my dad would look at them, and he would say, "You know what, son? When we were kids, we used to put razor blades at the end of these, and we'd have kite fights." I don't know if I never did that, but yeah.
They still do that in India.
Oh yeah.
But it's a little bit different. What they do is they put glass on the string, and it's a competition to see. What you got to do is cut the other kite string.
Yeah.
And when you do, they yell "kite down," and the kite crashes, and you win. And they have wars like that with them.
Yeah. We never did that, but we played with the kites.
Mm-hmm.
And it was freaking fun. That was a big deal for us back then. It was something cool,
Frankie says, I lit grandma's tablecloth on fire with caps from a cat gun. I got yelled at for throwing a roll of caps into the fireplace at my grandmother's house. I didn't know you couldn't do that.
And dude, those were everywhere in every store. You had the little round ones. You had the long ticker tape one. All of them.
Yep.
It was like, and now I wonder, dude, can you easily acquire, or is it banned?
I don't know. I haven't looked for cap guns in a long time. I know they faded out. They went way out of style.
It doesn't sound that exciting anymore, probably.
No, it's not. We were easily amused, man. I mean,
it was fun for a kid to.
Yes,
know.
Oh man. Well, you about ready to land the plane?
Yeah.
We kind of trundled all over the place. Didn't have anybody on. I guess we should have.
Yeah, we should have. We should have.
We're still new to this format.
Yeah, we'll attempt that next time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had fun. I enjoyed it. We talked a few different topics, but that's fine. I kind of like that. I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves. We do want to mention that we go live every Tuesday at 9:30 Eastern, 6:30 Pacific Coast time here on YouTube. That's Trampled Underfoot Podcast on YouTube. And we also have a Facebook page by the same name and a website. You can catch our past episodes via audio format just by pressing the Wayback Machine button. And you can have a good time listening to some of those crazy episodes. We have all sorts of different topics there that we touch on. We're also sponsored by
Harneel Media, Steve Nealon, your website guru. If you're looking to build or increase your web presence, Steve is your guy. I think just about everybody in here that has a website is either sponsored by Steve Nealon or they have their website through Steve Nealon. There may be one or two holdouts that don't, and shame on you, but that's just my opinion. Uh-oh, he ran away on me. Okay, hope everything is all right in hope everything is all right in Miami. But yeah, hunt up Steve Nealon, Harneo Media. He's usually here, but he's not here this time. You all right?
Yeah, I just turned off the mic and the thing to let you do your thing, and I went to I can't. So I'm gonna. I stepped outside to. Okay, I went to the John.
I didn't know if you lost connection because it came up with just a blue circle that said E on it.
You know when somebody when somebody
that's not his logo.
You know when somebody excuses himself very very cautiously from a formal dinner and they say, oh, excuse me for 1 second and stuff, and they go where the ladies to the powder room and stuff. Everybody rips one in the powder room or whatever. That's not right, but you do it discreetly. I can't do that here because you started. I heard you from there saying, "Oh, wait, something's going on." I'm like,
yeah. Well, I didn't know if something would happen. I didn't know because it wasn't your logo. It was just a blue circle with an E in it. It wasn't your logo.
That's interesting. Is it supposed to be my logo?
It normally is.
Something. Oh well, it normally is, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay, we'll figure it out.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for joining us again, everybody. And we'll see you next week, and we'll try to have a topic. But what fun would that be?
Have a safe one.
Take care, y'all.
See you.